love my channel and would like to show your support, please click on the link below this video and become the patron of the Ushanka Show. For as little as $1, you can help us grow and create the new, interesting videos about the life in Soviet Union. Hello comrades and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Today we continue our topic about Soviet humor, jokes and anecdotes in Soviet Union. And today's topic is komandirovka. This is how we call business trips. So when a person goes to the different town for the long time, for a couple of weeks, like a business trip. So the company, we didn't have a private company, so everyone had to work for somebody, for some state-owned companies. But there are some people who had to go on the business trips, so-called komandirovkas. So we had a lot of jokes on the topic that husband returns home earlier than planned, and his wife has someone else in the bed. So there's a tons of anecdotes on that topic, and that's today we're gonna talk about those. So there's your first anecdote on this topic. So when people die, they go to heaven. So there's a line of people in the front of the gates to heaven, and these two guys, they're both, still young. So they struck the conversation, and one guy's like, "Hey, dude, you look pretty young. How come that you died so early?" He's like, "Yeah, that's a pretty sad story. I came home earlier from my komandirovka. Unlock the door, I come in, and I see that there's alcohol and food on the table. There's a cigarette, couple of cigarettes kind of like lit. My wife is naked. So I beat her senseless because I realized that she has a lover. And then I started searching all over the place and I couldn't find. So I thought maybe she was expecting me, and she was all like really, I beat her up so bad that she was almost dead. So I felt so bad, and I just jumped off the balcony. And most people in Soviet cities lived in a 9-story high or 16-story high building. So I jumped to my death off the balcony. So the other guy like, "Yeah, that's really bad, but damn it, I wish you looked in your chest freezer because we both would be alive right now." So there's your first anecdote about infidelity. So if you didn't get it, the guy was hiding in a chest freezer, and since wife was passed out, he froze to death too. So both the husband and the lover end up dying. The second joke, second anecdote is same situation. A guy with a lady in the bed, and she hears the doorbell, and she's like, "Oh my God, that's my husband. He came back early from komandirovka. Go ahead, grab your stuff and jump off the balcony." And the guy looks at her like, "Are you crazy? This is the 13th floor." And she looks at him like, "This is the really wrong time to be superstitious. Just jump, please, just jump." So there's, again, I think they've kind of tried to pick the most obvious, the good ones, but if you didn't get it, 13th floor, he's afraid to jump because it's so high, and she's thinking that he's just superstitious because he doesn't like number 13. So when I started working on this video and putting anecdotes together, I paused for a second and I thought, I wonder why do we have so many anecdotes about these komandirovka situations. And maybe for real there was a problem with, wives cheating on their husbands, but of course there's no way to find any statistics, how much was that thing going on. But I personally have a couple cases that we witnessed that the neighbors in our building or building next door, they had an affair. The first one happened when I still lived in our one-room apartment. Who watching my channel, they remember We used to live first in a dorm room, my family sharing the same room with another family. Then we lived for about 5 or 6 years in this one-room apartment, which the whole building was like 9-story high. So one day, there were police, what we call militia. There were скорая помощь, so there was a ambulance by our building, and everything was like hush, something, and I was little, I'm like 6 or 7 years old. So what happened, and so this is not an anecdote now, a husband came home early, and this lady had a boyfriend who was neighbor next door, like, on each floor there would be maybe like 20 apartments. So there was 2 apartments next to each other on the same kind of side. So when the husband started, unlocking the door, ringing the doorbell, a lover was trying to get to his apartment through the window. And I guess there was, I don't know how he was trying to kind of step on the ledge, like in the movies, and he didn't make it. So he fell off to his death, trying to escape from his girlfriend's apartment back to his apartment. And I remember, everything was done, body removed, kind of things were cleaned up, and militia was gone. All the kids, of course, went there, and sure enough, there was a blood stain on the blacktop. So there's this, high price you paid for having a little fun while husband is not home. And, another thing I was started thinking, maybe because there was not much entertainment, if for real, for some reason, wife is home alone and she's bored, it maybe for real creates situation when, there's a guy in the same building or like even across your hallway, some attractive guy, and you're just bored to death because there's really nothing to watch on TV. No cell phones that time, you don't have Facebook, so you just entertain yourself having an affair. Or another idea, and it's way above my pay grade because, I'm not a psychologist, but in Soviet Union, there was quite a push by mothers. They taught their daughters to marry right. So I won't say it's a gold digging, but since this was a horrible situation with drinking, and usually girls in Soviet Union would marry, pretty much starting like you finish high school at 18, 19, then girls started marrying like pretty much by 21, 22, you should be married. If you're 23, 24, 25, you're not married yet, you like old maiden. There's something wrong with you. Are you really ugly? Or maybe you're already divorced. So I'm thinking maybe other reason why we had the situation, if we had it for real, this infidelity is that, maybe girl was really in the bad boys. And that was another thing, like I was quite a nerdy kid. So I don't think there was going on that girls were, falling for bad boys. But then when I talked about it on my Russian channel, actually ladies like, no, it's true. It's the same thing with so-called huligani, guys that, drinking beer, playing guitar, hanging out outside. A lot of girls were attracted to that kind of thing. So maybe, you married right, you married some boring engineer or some other guy who, does everything right for the family, but she's just boring as hell. Then you just have a little fun on the side, have a little affair, and then of course this creates all these problems with husband comes home early and catches you with the other guy. So there's another anecdote for you on this topic. So the husband, it's a weekend, and he decided to go fishing, so he, got his gear. And of course, if you live in a big city, it takes a while to get out where the river or lake is. So he got up early when the first bus or first subway train goes, metro, gets his stuff. He goes in the bus stop, and the weather's just horrible. Rain, pouring rain, wind, just miserable weather. So he stood there for a while, then he's like, you know what, that's a bad idea. I don't want to go fishing. So he, goes back to his apartment, unlocks the door. He doesn't want to wake up his wife, so he just kind of like quietly in the darkness goes in bed. He's all cold, so he kind of cuddles to his wife, hugs her, and, his wife is half asleep. She's like, "Is that you, honey?" He's like, "Yep, it's me. The weather is just horrible outside." And she's like, "Yeah, I know, and my stupid husband decided to go fishing in such a weather. Would you believe it? What an idiot." So there's that, I think it's pretty funny anecdote on that topic. And, even if after we moved to our new apartment, which I just shared that story with you not long ago, I remember, and I think it was happening on the weekend, because my mom and my dad were home, and they thought it just really funny. But they noticed that on the weekend, in early morning, there'll be a guy walking by our building, but he was peeking to like other building. So what we figure out that he had a girlfriend there, so he will come and wait for a signal that husband is gone, because he would be having flowers or a bottle of alcohol, and he kind of be pacing back and forth and just looking at that building. And I guess after husband goes fishing or something else, because that was the weekend, she, I guess, would do some kind of a sign in the window, or maybe opens the blinds or put the flowers on the window. But there was some kind of trick to send a signal like, "Hey, it's all clear, you can come over." And that was especially my mother, she found it so funny just to watch this guy kind of pacing and like, "Oh yeah, look, he's all prepared to have some fun." So even there we saw there's this kind of thing was going on. Lover waiting for the husband to be gone, so he can hang out with other man's wife. So there is another anecdote on this topic. So a wife and a husband, they sleep in their apartment, so it's middle of the night, they're both asleep, and suddenly there's a doorbell, in the middle of the night. So wife wakes up and she's like, "Oh my God, it's my husband." And the husband wakes up, grabs his stuff, and jumps out of the window right away. And then he's like, "Wait a minute." So this anecdote that, just the whole thing about the doorbell in the night, wife automatically kicks in that it's my husband came back, and the husband in a habit of running away when the doorbell rings in the middle of the night. So they both have an affair. They cheat on each other, but such happened that the doorbell at night made them kind of show who they really are. And the last anecdote on this topic, it's kind of similar, but there's a thing going on in the court, and the guy who trying to think English word, подсудимый, so he's the one that in trouble and he's gonna go to jail. So they ask him, he's like, "Okay, well, tell your story." So the guy says, "Well, what happened? I came home early, unlocked the door, and what I see, there's a table set up, and, there's 2 glasses of vodka, and my wife is naked in bed. So I assumed that she's having an affair with somebody. So I started searching all over the apartment, and I couldn't find anyone. So then I ran on the balcony. I also couldn't find anyone, but I looked down, and below, 1 floor below, there was a naked guy laying on the balcony. So I grabbed the chest that we have sitting on the balcony, and I tossed down to hit that guy, to hit the boyfriend. So then judge says, "Okay, now let's listen to the witness." And witness said, "Well, I came home. It was a beautiful day. I decided to go outside, and I like to get some tan. I like to do it in nude. So I laid on my balcony trying to get, some tan. And suddenly this crazy man from a floor above me just threw this heavy chest at me and broke my ribs." And they're like, "Okay, so that's a victim, not the witness." And then they ask him, "All right, now it's the time for witness. What did you see?" And the witness, "Your Honor, so I was sitting inside of that little chest on the balcony, and then the guy tossed me down from the balcony." So that's another anecdote and that the boyfriend was actually hiding inside of the chest, and some other person got hurt. So this was a couple of funny anecdotes for you about komandirovka and about husbands coming home too early. As I said, it's made me thinking just now, like, why did we have so many of those? Maybe for real we had a problem with that in Soviet Union. And that was some humorist was saying that the rule is that if you should always send a telegram that plans change, you arriving home early. So if you want to have a good family and not have problems, always warn your wife that you come home early, then you will never have a problem with finding somebody else in her bed. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show. As always, don't forget to like the video, share with your friends, share it on social media, and we'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Goodbye.